Hello everybody, Michael here for Tactica Imperialis with another series of Codex analysis. Today we are taking a look at the Ghazghkull supplement for Codex Orks. Before we begin, I must point out this is an Orks supplement. It's not a standalone codex. As a result, there are no units in here. It's all formations, special rules, relics, and things like that. So I will talk about units in here, even though I'm not giving you their stat lines and things like that. So if you are confused at any point, there will be a link in the description to the Orks Codex analysis, which should hopefully fill in all the gaps, like talking about mob rule or talking about just general things that are Orkish or in the Ork Codex. It'll give you a chance to have a look at them because I'm not going to be going over everything in detail here. So if you don't know your Orks, click the link in the description and that'll take you through the Codex. So let's get going, shall we? So Ghazghkull is something I would consider as a really nice thing for any Ork player to consider picking up. You get 6 missions at the back, Altars of War and Echoes of War, which are really good. I'm hoping to play a few of them. Might even review them at the end of this series. You also get a good alternate set of relics. You get a nice set of Warlord Traits. You get a very nice detachment. And of course you get some really useful formations, which is probably the main reason you're buying this book. Also going to just point out the lore in here is amazing. Like the first half of the book is just lore and it's really good reading. The story of Ghazghkull, but in as much depth as you come up with, talking about Octarius and all sorts of other crazy things. It's really worth a read. Even if you don't use it very often. Even if you're not an Ork player, just read the thing. It's worth your time. Right, anyway, let's get into the forces of the Great Waaagh. So, let me just fill this in. You will find additional special rules, Warlord Traits, relics, a detachment and formation that reflect the composition of fighting style of Ghazghkull. You can add the detachment and formations to an existing army or use them to field an army from Ghazghkull itself. So if you're running an Ork army, you can still run one of these formations without having to use the Ghazghkull Warlord Traits. And you can still run a detachment from this book using the Great Waaagh detachment alongside another detachment, just like an allied detachment. There is nothing stopping you doing that. The only stipulation is if your Warlord comes from here, they'll have to use their Warlord Traits from here instead of the Ork ones, I believe. I'll check that. Right, so, special rules. Biggest and the best. This special rule only applies to a Warlord chosen as part of a detachment or formation presented in this book. All the formations and the detachment have this special rule. Every single one of them. But the rule only actually applies to the Warlord. If he has this special rule, which he will if he's part of one of the detachments, like this is your primary detachment, or one of the formations is your primary detachment, should I say, he must always issue and accept a challenge whenever possible, just like Chaos Champions. If you have more than one model in a combat with a special rule to this effect, you can choose which model issues or accepts the challenge. So if, I don't know, you're allied with Chaos and you're in the same unit as a Chaos Lord, I don't think it's actually possible, but you're in the same combat as a Chaos Lord, for example, he can take the challenge instead of your Warlord, which is just a thing, I suppose. If a Warlord with the special rule kills an enemy character in a challenge, he can reroll all failed to wound rolls for the rest of the game, which is really, really good considering most of the time, at any rate, your character will have a Power Claw. There are exceptions. There's one in here that I think you may swap your Power Claw for, but in most cases you have a Power Claw or a Kill Saw or something to that effect, meaning that you will get rerollable 2s to wound. That's great. Right, second up, the boss is watching, or the boss is watching, should I say. Units with mob rule, see Codex Orks, so that's episode 1 of the Ork Codex. It includes at least one model from this detachment or formation gets +2 to any roll on mob rule. However, should you take any hits from breaking heads or squabble, you will stuff a D3 +3 strength for AP nothing hits instead of D6 strength for AP nothing hits. So this means that if you have a big squad with a character, you will never fail a morale check. Because the Born to Fight result, which is on a roll of a 1 on the mob rule table, is completely invalidated because you're adding 2. This means that you're really never going to go anywhere if you've got big squads and you have characters, which you should have characters. And that's good. However, you will get punched in the face a bit more for doing so. So D3 +3 means that your range of results goes from 4 to 6. Instead of 1 to 6 as it would be for a D6. So it's kind of more dangerous, but it's 6 2/3 really. I don't think it's that much of a difference, particularly in big squads. Now, I don't know why it says it. The wording is weird because squabble is 4 to 6. Now, if you add 2 to 5, you get 7. So, does 7 and 8 actually invalidate mob rule or just mean you just pass? Nah, can't be. Doesn't exist. Sorry. Talking rubbish. So yeah, you are going to get punched in the face a lot for failing your morale checks because Ork leadership is still terrible. Why are war bosses and stuff like leadership 10? I've talked about this before. But anyway, you're going to get punched in the face a lot more, but if you've got big squads, you're fine. You then have a new set of Warlord Traits. When generating your Warlord Traits, an Ork Warlord may choose to roll on the table below instead of the rulebook or the Ork Codex ones. So you don't have to use these, even though your Warlord comes from here. You can still use the Ork ones, which is nice. Or, obviously, the ones in the rulebook. So, on a 1, you get the Super Shootist. Orks are notoriously bad shots, yet this Warlord has developed the unusual habit of actually hitting something. So yes, your Warlord goes to BS3. This is pointless on war bosses because they have a shooter. Like, who cares? Who cares? But for big mechs, it's really, really good. The custom weapons, like custom Mega Slugger, custom Mega Shoot Blaster, those sorts of things, really good. Shock attack guns, partially good. I think it's not amazing, but it's useful. Reroll unless you're a big mech with a decent gun. 2, Warmongerer. The Warlord in any unit with the Orks faction he joins has the Crusader special rule. I've forgotten completely what Crusader was. I'm a moron, I've forgotten. I was told during the military Tempetus analysis what it did. I know it's got something to do with sweeping in advance, and I believe it's something to do with run moves as well, which would be really nice. So I'm just going to go and find it if I can. Just give me 1 minute. I know exactly where it is. Astral Term. That's already silent. This basically just determines whether it's any good. Also, according to this person, it says Crusader also lets you roll 2 dice when running and pick the highest, which is good, particularly on a Waaagh turn. Like, seriously, on a Waaagh turn, the amount of power that puts out is actually really, really useful. To reroll to get 2 dice, keep the highest, and if they both suck, you can still reroll. So that's useful. Crusader is good, okay? That's not bad at all. 3, Mad Boy. Rage. +2 attacks on the charge. If you've got a Power Claw, this means that you get the +1 for having 2 weapons without having 2 weapons, which is good. This is a good rule. I like this. Good one. 4, a Cunning Plan. The Warlord in any unit with Orks faction he joins has outflank. Oh, ouch, this is good. This is good situationally. Because if you're just a foot-slogging Warlord in heavy armor and things, I don't think it's that good. Or if you're a big mech with a shock attack gun, this one is terrible. But if you are in Mega Armor, leading a squad of Mega Knobs, or just leading a big Knob squad, leading a blob of boys, or perhaps you are a big mech with a custom Mega Blaster or a Combi Shooter Scorcher in a squad of Burner Boys, having outflank could be really, really useful. But it's not something I would ever build my list to play around because I would never bank on having it. 5, calling in a favour. Nominate 1 weapon carried by your Warlord. This weapon is now master crafted. This does not apply to any of Orkomedes' custom gubbins, which are your relics. Pretty good. Again, big mechs get a lot of value out of this with custom mega weapons, but it also works well with power claws because you'll be wounding on 2s most of the time. Rerolling to hit is good. It is good. Especially considering if you've got a Waaagh banner, you'll almost certainly always be hitting on 3s. And then finally, number 6, Dead Hard. The Warlord has Feel No Pain. I don't think that's very good. Because, generally, we always pay 10 points for the Cyborg body. As crappy as it is, we always pay for it. And wherever we put our Warlord, at least I do this, I'll put a Pain Boy there. Because, quite frankly, why would I put my Warlord in such a position where I was relying on a 6-up Feel No Pain? I'm going to put a Pain Boy in there anyway. Which means that if I'm planning to deploy him with a Pain Boy, which I will be because it buffs my whole unit with a Feel No Pain, this sucks. So I actually think this is one worth re-rolling. Yeah, interesting to say. I didn't think I'd be saying that, but Feel No Pain is actually not that good, because generally we've paid for it anyway, or we have a Pain Boy in the squad. Right, and finally we have Orkomedes Custom Gubbins. These are alternate relics. Any units from a detachment or formation in this book that can select Gifts of Gork and Mork cannot select from those listed in Codex Orks. So if you take this detachment, that I'm going to come on to in a minute, or you take any of the formations from this book, any character like a big mech or a war boss will have to use the custom gubbins instead of the other relics, meaning you lose access to a couple of really useful ones. The thinking cap, the lucky stick, the blitz bike, if that's what takes your fancy. They're just things that if you use them before, you won't get to use them now. But there are some good gubbins in here. So first off, we have the Chopper of the Ragnarok, 20 points. It's strength plus 2 AP 5, melee two-handed, so it's a big chopper for 20 points, but it also has a rule called Grand Destiny. At the end of any assault phase in which the bearer of this chopper inflicts one or more casualties, the weapon's strength modifier is increased by 1 and its AP value is lowered by 1. This effect stacks and lasts for the rest of the game, but cannot be made better than strength plus 6 and AP 1. So basically, get into melee as fast as you freaking can. Seriously. This is something designed for war bikes. Biker bosses with not bikers. That's where this is designed for. Because they need to get into melee quickly. Because the buff does not come from killing things. Or not killing masses of things. You can't get a huge buff from killing 5 guys and getting plus 5. Not a thing. It's at the end of the assault phase if you killed someone. And it is killed. Not caused an unsaved wound, actually killed someone. You'll get that buff. So you need to be in 4 separate assault phases and kill something in all of those assault phases. Which is doable, I grant you, but it's just something you've got to bear in mind. It's still good though. I do think it's really, really good. But when you compare it to a Power Claw, which is 5 points more for a reliable source of AP2, strength 8 or 10 or 9 if you're charging, all you then have is just the unwieldy problem. I don't know if it's amazing. Like, it's good, don't get me wrong, but would I pay 25 points more for a Power Claw? In most cases, yes, I would. I really would. Because I don't think it's outlandishly amazing. Still good, though, and if it works, oh my goodness me, you'll make everybody cry when you're at strength 10 AP1 and still at initiative. The initiative thing is better on bosses because they're initiative 4, mechs are on the initiative 3, but still good. Big Boss Pole, 20 points. Any unit with the Orks faction joined by the bearer of the Big Boss Pole has Fearless. You never have to roll on mob rule again with that unit. Thank you for Fearless. Why can't we have more Fearless? Like, we used to have Fearless just for having 11 guys, and now you're making us pay 20 points just for one squad to get it. Really? Regardless, this is still a really nice thing to have. Now, contrary to what you might expect, I would not put this in 30-man squads. Because 30-man squads, you don't have Born to Fight anymore because of the bosses watching. Which means that you never have the issue of running away. Because you've got a big squad, you'll have characters, assuming they don't get sniped, you'll be absolutely fine. This is actually better in smaller squads. Mega Knobs, Knobs, elite units, that's where they need Fearless. So as they don't get one bad round of melee or one hard-hitting round of shooting, and then all of a sudden they're running away because they don't have big squad, which is what it will be on a 2+. You get Squabble, 2+. So you need big squads, and if you don't have it, this is the only way to avoid it. So Fearless is good. I put it in smaller squads. The Super Cyborg, 50 points. They missed the trick on this. So, it's a Feel No Pain 5+, Eternal Warrior and Relentless for 50 points. This is terrible. Like, Relentless, pointless. Almost every gun in the Ork Codex is Assault. The only one that I think isn't off the top of my head for characters is the Shock Attack gun. And anyway, we have Mega Armor, which gives us Relentless anyway, and we're always using it. Because we have to. Eternal Warrior. Okay, on big mechs, I'll grant you Eternal Warrior is nice. But on war bosses, doesn't make that much difference. Like, how many things out there are actually strength 10? Not a lot. It's force weapons where you'd have the problem, but you'll have a 2+ save. And you can get Feel No Pain anyway. So I don't think Eternal Warrior is that useful, particularly for war bosses. Feel No Pain 5+, for that 50 points, I could take a Pain Boy and give it to my entire squad. And why wouldn't I? Well, it's taking up a HQ slot, I suppose, but I do think it's a little bit meh. It's nothing special. I wouldn't... If it gave out just a Swap the Feel No Pain for a 5+ invulnerable save, and I would be singing the praises of this thing. But it doesn't, and so it's still nothing special. Never mind. The Killer Claw, 40 points. It's a power claw on steroids. Strength times 2 AP 2, melee specialist weapon unwieldy. Dead Killy. The controlling player can choose to exchange all of your close combat attacks for one attack that causes instant death. Now on a war boss, this is again kind of bad because you're strength 10 anyway. So how much stuff are you not instant killing? Well, basically monstrous creatures. This is what this weapon is designed for, is killing monstrous creatures quickly. Because it's all well and good hacking your way through 6 wounds of Tyrannid monstrous creature, but by that point, he's probably killed you. One go to hit. The problem you've got is you have one attack, and you're hitting on 3s in most cases. Meaning that if you miss, you're screwed. And you have no way to get a reroll. If you are going to run a Killer Claw, you're going to have to run an Attack Squig alongside it. Meaning this thing goes up to 55 points just to make sure that that Dead Killy hit actually hits. Something to definitely worry about. Is it worth 15 points over a Power Claw? No, I don't think so. Although if you have been in a challenge earlier and are now getting the rerolls to wound because of the Warlord, you are now instant killing on 2s with a reroll. In most cases. I still don't think it's worth 15 points on top of a Power Claw. 10 points, like 35 point Relic, fine. 40, it's... I don't know. Mega Force Field. Custom Force Field on steroids. 75 points, only for big mechs. The bearer and all models within 6 get a 4-up invuln against shooting. If you are in a vehicle, the vehicle gets the 4+ invuln against shooting instead. This is good. 4+ invuln for everybody in 6. You only need one model in 6 to get the whole squad the invuln. Which is really, really good. But it's 75 points, and it still doesn't solve the problem that custom force fields have, is that they don't work in melee. Which is terrible. As a result, it's a huge investment. You probably should be running it if you had any plans to run a custom force field. It's 25 points extra to get a 4-up, and it's probably worth it. But in anything less than 2,000 points, it's a huge chunk gone out of your army. I mean, in a 1,500 point game, it's 1/20th of your list on a relic. Sheesh. Okay. I still think you should be running it though, especially because custom force fields are useful. Finally, Kildaka, 30 points. Now, this is the ultimate weapon of randomness. Seriously, it is so random. It's a ranged weapon with a profile that is randomly generated before deployment at the start of each battle. Roll a d6 and consult the chart below. So, on a 1, you get Heavy. 24-inch range, strength 7 AP4, Heavy, D3+1. Autocannon on steroids with half the range. Any good? Kinda. I mean, this is where having that relentless super cyborg comes in handy. But mega armor, you'll be working with that most of the time anyway. But ballistic skill is still bad, so realistically, you're only going to get 1 hit. Number 2, Bernie. It's a Scorcher. Strength 5 AP4, Assault 1 Flamer. Pointless. Like, why have I paid 30 points for a flipping heavy Flamer? 3, Shooty. 24-inch range, Strength 6 AP4, Assault... Is it 3? Assault 3. It's a super shooter from the Ork Flyers. Still got the AP4 problem, but it will do alright against light vehicles and anything that's not a Space Marine. Number 5, Zappy. 24-inch range, strength 2d6, AP2, Assault 1, Zap. This is a good use of AP2, and it will get you some high strength, potentially against vehicles as well. It's nice. Is it anything ridiculous? No, probably not. Number 5, Blasty. 24-inch range, strength 6, AP5, Assault 1, Blast. It's a Ghazghkull with only 1 shot. It's alright. Will do well against Guard because it's instant killing company commanders and the like, in Lord Commissars and Priests and stuff, but nothing special. And 6, Bubbly, 24-inch range again. Strength, star, AP star. Assault 1, large blast. Roll 1d6 to determine strength and AP. So you roll 1-3, you get strength 3 AP3. You roll a 5, you get strength 5 AP5. You know my opinions on bubble chuckers. They suck. I really do think they suck. Because against anything that's a Space Marine, to actually kill them, you're winning on 5s and 6s. The best result in most cases is 4 AP4 because it will be killing anything that's not a Space Marine on 3s, in most cases, apart from Sisters of Battle, but nobody really runs those guys. But against Marines, it's appalling. And reliable, not at all. So, Tactica, I would leave it in the shed. I don't think it's that good. Finally, for today's episode, we have the Great Waaagh Detachment, which is slightly different. So, I'm going to compare it first and foremost to the primary detachment, the Combined Arms Detachment. So, it's 2 HQs, 8 troops, 4 elites, 3 fast attack, 3 heavy support, 1 fortification, 1 Lord of War. So, you get 1 more elite slot and 2 more troop slots. In terms of compulsory, you have 1 HQ, 2 troops, and you must take an elite. Now, the Ork elites is not amazing, but you're probably going to run from there anyway because knobs and mega knobs are in there. Burners, commandos, tank busters. There are some useful units in there if that's what your playing style is. I know I would be. You don't have the forced 3rd troop from the Ork Horde detachment, which is nice. I do like that. But you lose the 3rd HQ from the Ork Horde detachment, meaning that Pain Boys suddenly become very taxing. Sort of forces you to use formations to fill in the gaps with things like Pain Boys. There's one formation that has no reason to run a Pain Boy, but it does, and you can then stick that Pain Boy into another squad from the detachment because it's not part of the detachment. So it's useful in that way. Restrictions: all units in this detachment except fortifications must be Orks, obvious. Biggest and the best, the boss is watching, they are your command benefits. As I say, everybody gets them, although your Warlord is the only one who benefits from biggest and the best. The right boss for the plan. If this is your primary detachment, you can re-roll the Ghazghkull Warlord Traits. There are 3 of them that are quite good. I'll go back over those just quickly at the end. But I think it's standard for detachments. And Teleporter Strike. Before deployment, roll a d6 for each non-flyer in this detachment, adding +1 if the battlefield role is troops. This includes Lords of War. On a result of a 6+, that unit has Deep Strike. So, Deep Striking Stompers, Deep Striking Death Treads, Deep Striking Gorkanauts, Deep Striking Storm Boys. Actually, no, Storm Boys is a terrible example. Deep Striking Grots, Deep Striking Boys, Deep Striking Mega Knobs. There are some seriously nice things you can do, but you need to roll a 6 or a 5+ if it's troops. So, Boys, it allows you to make your Boys very versatile, and you've got to do it pre-deployment, and you don't have to use it. If you still want to footslog everybody, that's fine, but it gives you an alternate way of getting in reserve units or setting up a secondary attack for objective running and stuff like that. Kind of useful. Would I run it over the Ork Horde detachment? No, probably not, because I need the 3rd HQ. The 4th elite slot, I'll take it or leave it. It's the 3rd HQ that means that the other one is really, really useful. And that is the end of today's video. So, in review, special rules. Kind of useful. Biggest and the best, whilst it might get you murdered by a monster creature every now and then, is really useful. The boss is watching is great if you're a big squad, or a big shooting squad, like a full-size squad of looters, shooter boys, for example. Not so good for small squads, because they get punched even more. The custom gubbins, they're alright. Best ones would be the Chopper of the Ragnarok, if you don't want a Power Claw. The Big Boss Pole is pretty much crucial. Super Cyborg sucks. Killer Claw, probably good. Mega Force Field, very expensive but needed. Tactica, I think, sucks. Warlord Traits, there are 3 really good ones, or 3 good ones. That being Cunning Plan, Mad Boy, and Warmongerer. 2 situational good ones. Calling in a Favour, actually that's just flat good. Super Shooter is situational, and Dead Hard is situational but kind of bad. And that's the end of today's video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did. The next episode will be out soon, where we'll go through all the formations in the Ghazghkull book. Thank you for watching. My name is Michael for Tactica Imperialis, and I'll see you all again.